Hi, this is Luke from Inside Chaos, and today we're going to take a look at 5 Kickstarter campaigns that was just released in the last few days. Without further ado, we're going to take a look at Human Punishment: The Beginning. So what this game is it is set in a cyberpunk city where the machines became more self-aware and are starting to revolt against their creators, which is us, the humans. So what the government then did is they set up a specialist unit to handle this. They called the unit the Ghost Unit, and we are playing as an agent of Ghost to try and prevent the uprising of the machines while maintaining law and order in the city. It is a 3 to 6 player game, and I like to highlight the fact that it's a high minimum player count of 3, and I'll get to why that is a little bit down the line. And it is quite a lengthy game. It will take you 2 to 3 plus hours. So we've already unlocked this stretch goal, which is good for us, and it is interesting because a lot of Kickstarter campaigns tend to be very miniature heavy. The fact that this is all standees and we are getting acrylic standees, and I do like acrylic standees because you can see this nice clear border outline. The colors tend to pop a little bit better than the cardboard standees, and they tend to be more durable. So I'm a sucker for deluxified components, so the fact that these are acrylic, I'm all the more for it. And it will also, the plus side of standees is it will also lower the price point of the game overall. So looking at this particular, I guess, picture, it is quite busy. We're playing one of the agents of Ghosts, and as an agent of Ghosts, this has the main I guess the main mechanic of pick up and deliver. So if you don't know what pick up and deliver is you're there to go to a location, do some objective, pick up something, move to a new location and deliver it. So if we were to look at this board, we tend to have to go over towards the left hand side, pick up what is known as a data chip, make our way across the other side and deliver said data chip. Now, while doing that, the interesting thing about this particular game is it adds in a new element of social deduction. And what social deduction means is you're trying to figure out who the other players are and whether they're going to be on your side or the opposing side. So this is why there's a minimum player of 3, because if there was 2, then you'll know who your opponent is. Because if you're human, then they're the machine. If you're machine, then they're the human. So with 3 players, you don't know which of the 2 is actually on your side or against you. And the fun thing about social deduction games is you're there to try and convince and work out whether someone's on your side and to try and convince them that you're on their side as well. And at the same time, it's also quite satisfying when you're essentially the bad guy and you manage to convince a good guy that you happen to be a good guy. Like personally, I've done that a few times, and it is quite satisfying when it does pay off, but it depends on what kind of player you are. So one of the things to note is if you are the bad guy, you're gonna have to lie quite a lot because you have to try and convince them that you're the good guy. So if you don't like lying as part of your board game experience, then this game is probably not going to be for you. So looking at the pledges, there's 2 pledges. There's the core pledge, which is the general pledge, and then the deluxified pledge, which is the leader pledge. The only difference between the 2 is deluxe component upgrade. I do like deluxe component upgrades. The problem I have with this deluxe component upgrade is it's in a separate little box. I don't know about you, I have a small shelf for my board games, and the fact that this is going to take up one standard size, what looks to be a standard size box, but now also a little box that is just a deluxified component. That irks me a little because shelf space is a premium. So chances are I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to rearrange the inside of the box and manage to put this in if they haven't allocated a space to put these poker chips in. And I guess looking at this, so we got essentially 6 characters and a companion, which is a dog. It'll be interesting to see whether they'll add in a second companion, maybe a cat, but we'll see what happens. There will there's obviously 7 character boards. One of them is obviously the dog. Now, one of the things I do like about this campaign is it does give you the card size, because I'm a sleever and I always find it a pain trying to work out how many sleeves I need, what size they are, and the fact that they already tell you this this is what I like to see. And I am starting to see that a few board games campaigns are starting to do this, and I'm super stoked about it because, as I said, I'm a sleever, and this just makes it easier for me, and it kind of is the stuff that I look for, and I don't really want to have to hunt this down. So it's got the mini size sleeves, a few tokens. So the interesting thing I think was they didn't try to upgrade these other cardboard components, but just the chips and the units. So any of the circular stuff is what they chose to upgrade. Or have they? So this is health and action. Oh no, we do have health chips here, but maybe did I see action? Maybe they just don't have the action chips. But yeah, again, like I said, I do like the poker chips, but the fact that it's a separate cardboard is a little bit of a no for me. But we'll see whether there's going to be enough space in the main box to be able to put these poker chips in, or maybe I just have to rearrange the entire box just to fit these in. But it is something to be aware of, and it does irk me a little bit. They do have a secret goal, which is interesting, but they haven't really revealed what this is. There's a few stretch goals, which they made bigger hollow cubes, add a few extra cards, thicker player boards. As always, the price that you pay have already catered for all these extra components, so be aware that even though they tend to tell you that it's free, you've actually already paid for it. And the good thing about this is they also tell you which ones are exclusive. So of the stretch goals, you'll know straight away that the cubes are exclusive, the box print is exclusive, but the rest that even though it's unlocked, chances are it's going to be available on retail, or they'll be purchasable as an add-on. Right, so let's take a look at shipping. Oh, actually, let's take a look at the Wight back now. This to me is dumb. This over here should be near the very, very top to tell you why you should back their campaign. The fact that I have to go, 80% down the page to even figure out why I should back their project is just horrendous, because can be easily missed, and obviously I even forgot about it, but now that we get to see it here. They do the usual stuff, which is you get a little bit cheaper with the MSRP. However, you got to be aware that you're also paying for the shipping. So it's hard to say whether it's going to be a save or not. However, being in New Zealand, this game may not actually reach New Zealand, even if it does reach retail. Guess could be a saving for you, so just be aware of that. Actually it says only available directly from US and some selective exclusive retailers. So it's cheaper than retail. Probably save a little bit on the shipping because you've already paid for the overall price, which should be a little bit cheaper. You'll be one of the first, I guess, players to be able to play the game if that matters to you. The deluxe components, which is the chips, it looks like they're not gonna. Oh no, I think they'll sell that as an add-on anyway, so that doesn't really matter. And upgrade game. So let's go back to the shipping. The shipping isn't isn't bad. Like at 12 euros for what is essentially a 55 euro game is pretty decent. Um, and I guess it is this way because the game box is lighter as well, which is probably why it's a little bit on the cheaper side. Obviously, if you wanted the leader pledge, which is was it 90 euros and it's only $2 extra. So in terms of that proportion wise, you are saving more for the shipping. But I guess this is something that you're gonna have to work out whether this extra 35 euro is worth those 100 poker chips. So let's go quickly into what I would do. I'm a little bit concerned about the fiddliness of this game. What that means is there could be quite a few overhead to the game. Uh, on Board Game Geek, it seems to imply that this is easier to play than essentially Dead of Winter. I'm not convinced that is. I think it's at least at a minimum on the same level, if not higher than it, just by the sheer amount of components. But it's something to be aware of. So I don't want to spend too long on this, but I'll probably do. I'm not going to do a should you back this particular video, this particular campaign, but I will talk more about it at the end of this, or at the end of this video. So if you want to know more information as to what this game is about, what I think might be the issues are, then you can probably skip to the end or watch through the rest, and then watch it at the end. So the next campaign I'll take a look at is Button Shy Games. So this is another reprint of the game. I'm not going to say too much about it. They do pretty well. Most of these are either solo or two-player game, with a few that can be over two players. I myself am a multiplayer board gamer because I like that I guess coming together to enjoy a hobby. So if it's just two players, then I just feel like I could just be playing chess. I mean, chess can be a bit boring, but you know what I mean. I'm more about having a group of people come together to enjoy something that we love. Two of us is not going to be enough. And but the good thing about these kind of games is it is wallet size. I mean, you look at how small this is. You can take this anywhere. They're very quick games. They're easy games, and they're fairly enjoyable. But they're just not for me. So, if you're interested, take a look at these. These is reasonably on the cheaper side. One is 10 US dollars, but don't forget you still have to pay for shipping. I think standard retail is around 12. So you save 2 US dollars, but then you have to pay the shipping, which is quite a bit. So the only thing about this one I'd like to mention is currently on their website, they've got free shipping everywhere else, which is New Zealand, if you order $75 USD $75 or more, and you get free shipping to New Zealand. So between the two, work out what you like, and how much you were looking to spend. Maybe over here is actually cheaper to find enough small pocket games to get that free shipping. But I guess that will be up to you. Next one we have is 1860, the Railways on the Isles of Wight. I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly, probably didn't. Now, this is referred to as an 18xx game. This is a game, 18xx game is essentially I guess, a managing a railway or railroad type game, while managing the stock of each particular company. I've always been very interested in this, but I've always been intimidated by the complexity of this game because this is actually a very long game. This one is for two players, so it does, slim it down a bit. But personally for me, I'm not really sold on I guess the components, and they even made a mention that why they kept this way. But for myself, these kind of was it details is important to me. Like I like nice looking components, and this doesn't really quite do it for me, as well as it being was it for two players. So like I said previously, I prefer at least 3+ type board games, with the option to play two if I want to, but most of my board games seem to be was it between 2 and 4 or higher. However, saying that, it is very hard to get these 18x6 games, especially in New Zealand anyway. If unless you're looking at the second-hand market, there is a very small niche community that does play it that you can try and find. They have a Facebook group as well as a Slack channel that they can use. I'll add the link for the Slack channel in the description for this video. So in summary, it will cost you $75 for this part of the game, and the shipping is $25 because it is was it at anywhere in the world. Again, up to you. The shipping is okay-ish. It's still on the higher side for, I guess, what the size of this game really is. Let me take a look. So unless this board is a lot bigger than say the Human Punishment board game box, then that might be where that shipping might be worth it. But I feel like this looks very similar. It looks to be a very similar size to the Human Punishment gaming box, which makes this shipping on the higher side. However, it is a $75 game, so I guess, and it's hard to get in New Zealand, so something to consider whether you want to get this game or not. Next one we'll take a look at is Reload. So Reload is essentially a battle royale game, and you win by getting the most fame. Again, you also have a bunch of variable player powers as you play as one of these various characters, and you're trying to get your opponents to, I guess, reload. If you ever played these kind of games, a PC game, it will be essentially to respawn. So it's something where you took too much damage and then you have to spawn again to then participate in the arena. This game has two modes. You can either play as two teams, 2-on-2, or you can play as a free-for-all. It's supposed to be a very fast game. There's a lot of luck. You're rolling a lot of dice. You lose a dice if you got injured, and if you gain the dice back when you heal yourself. So let's take a look. I think, where are we? So looking at these components, you're one of the 4 characters. This is essentially your board, and you start off around the center and you run around. There's all these crates that you can pick up, which you can get new items and recover health and so forth. Some of the interesting thing is you can lay traps, and the traps are very interesting. So some of the traps as you lay them, you play a little mini game of rock paper scissors. So you put a token down, and the token will be rock, and then you have to decide before you flip over that token whether you can do rock paper scissors. If you essentially win, you manage to disarm it. I think if it's a draw, you're stunned. If you win, yeah, you disarm it. If it's a draw, you get stunned, and if you lose, you take damage and you lose the dice. It looks quite interesting, but I'm not 100% sure this will be for me either. Just the way it plays, and I don't think my gaming group itself plays games like this as well, because they don't really like too much of this dice action, because as I said in a few times in my previous videos, one of my main gaming buddy, he really hates dice. He hates the luck of the dice because he always seems to be rolling the bad numbers. Yeah, so it's got these little miniatures, and you can get up to 6 characters. So as some of the expansions you can increase your number of your characters, which then obviously increases the replayability because you got now more characters to play with, which is quite handy. Stretch goals isn't much at the moment. I think we only just got the one equipment card. And the ship. Again, I don't know why the Y back now is all the way at the bottom, like 80% of the page down. But yeah, they're all roughly the same thing. So if this is important to you, then yeah. Now, New Zealand. The shipping to New Zealand is here. So looking at the price of the game, it is 39 US dollars. Shipping to New Zealand, it is 15. So that's reasonably high. We're starting to look towards, what was it, about 40%-ish of the price for it, where that's not particularly great. Obviously, if you manage to find a group to join with, then you would save 13 US dollars just by joining part of a group. But obviously you're gonna have to find a group to get 6 games. But if you're just buying solo, I'm not convinced that this is a good value proposition. So, which is, I guess, in a way, I didn't go too much into this because I don't think this is a very good value for us in New Zealand. But I guess if we go back up, some of the good things about this game is I've seen a lot of reviews about this particular arena type game, and it says that they do feel that, well, Board Game Co, which is Alex Radcliffe, is a channel that I tend to follow, and I do like his opinion, and I think him and I have a very similar style in how we play games, except for the fact that I don't play solo games, and he does. And if he says that it managed to deliver that feeling, then I tend to believe him because, as I said, I follow his channel. So if you are interested in these kind of I guess a dice chucker type game in an arena where you go head to head with your opponents, it doesn't look too bad. Like it does look like a fun experience. There is enough in there where it feels like you're playing one of those PC games where you're in an arena and you're running around the map picking up items, trying to shoot each other, and the fact that it has various player powers makes this a very interesting game. So if you're into that kind of stuff, don't forget, even though shipping and versus the price of the game doesn't seem very worth it to me, and it doesn't seem very worth it as a value proposition, chances are it's not going to hit New Zealand. So it'll be very hard to get it on the secondhand market or retail. So if you are interested in this game, then this is pretty much the only chance you can get it. So, but again, there is a lot of board games out there. So if this is something you're interested in, then I would suggest taking a closer look at it. So the last one we're going to take a look at is Crytid Café. And what this is you're a server, essentially in a, I guess, in a cafe. And if you know what server is, you're essentially kind of like a waiter or waitress, sorry. and you win the game by getting the most tips. So essentially, let me go a little bit further down. What am I looking for? Right. So what you're really doing, if you've ever played one of those cooking apps, you have these customers that will come in. They start off on the left hand side being very happy, and you're there to try and deliver their food as fast as possible to get the most tips out of them. But as you go round by round, they will start becoming more and more unhappy before they will just simply walk out on the right hand side. Um, and so the quicker you deliver their food to them, the more tips they'll give you. Otherwise, you will start losing tips, and if they walk out, essentially the owner will take tips away from you. So, interesting thing about this is a little bit of a worker placement game. You're there to place in these positions. So these positions essentially means how many portion of that particular type of food you're gonna get, and the twist to this is if you're at the bottom level, you have a chance to pay more tips or pay a portion of your tips to the chef, for the chef to then prioritize what you want to you by moving, I guess, your meeple to one of the other positions. So you start off as one. If you pay 1 coin or 1 tip, you will go to number 2. If you pay 2, you go to number 3, and that's how many portions you get. So if you want to control how many portions you get, you can be on the 1, but you just have to be aware that you can only pay it once, and you also have to be aware that if you're the only one in the spot, then you can't pay anything extra because you're the first and last. But over here, you can try and convince the chef to prioritize what your portions, your needs over the others. This is an interesting way of the worker placement. I'm not sure if it has enough depth for me in terms of a worker placement type style, but it is very light. It seems very fun. It's only a 45-minute game time, which means it will make it a very nice filler like game while you wait for others to come by. You can also play solo and obviously up to 4. Yeah, so it's a little bit hard to see. Oh, let's see if I can see one. Let's see if I can find a bigger picture of. So this is your customer. Your customer will come in. They'll ask for 3 portions of whatever this is. I think this looks like some kind of cake. I'm guessing 1 coffee and maybe 1 muffin. Not sure what that is. Sorry, I did not look too closely into this. And so based on these numbers is where you want to be on this particular board. So that's where that's important. And the moment you complete a customer, then a new one will come over here. If you've got 2 free green spots, then you get 2 new customers. It starts with some wooden Sasquatch server meeples, which is quite neat. I haven't seen one of these before, so I guess this is one of the things they're trying to make themselves unique. They have a little bit of take that. So if you don't like that, you just got to be aware that this game have that, and then how you want to manage it for yourself will be up to you. Obviously, with the sorry, I got that wrong. Apologies. This is actually the event card. So there are certain events that will happen every round. But at least you'll be aware of what it is, and you can decide whether you actually wanna go to that particular spot or not. So what is in the deluxe edition? Your deluxe edition, instead of getting just a standard type of meeple, standard type of what was it, Sasquatch meeple, you can get various different type of monsters as your server, so then that way you can tell which one is yours that's beyond color in case you're colorblind, I guess. But it's still neat. Not really needed, but I like deluxe. What can I say? All your tokens instead of cardboards, they become wooden. And so let's talk about shipping. So the interesting thing about the shipping is if you can convince a friend to join you, you won't have to pay shipping for the second copy of the game. Now, let's see, where's the shipping portion? So shipping to New Zealand is 28 US dollars. Now, for a game that is essentially 39, assuming you got the deluxe edition, because I always think that the deluxe edition is worth more than retail. But I guess that's up to your personal preference. So at 39 US dollars and the shipping being 28, that is most definitely not value for money. That shipping is insanely high for shipping. This looks like a reasonably standard sized board game to yourself, and at $28 when the game itself costs 39, it is horrendous. But however, if you manage to get a friend to jump in, then your shipping will essentially be 14 US dollars. So, but it's whether you can find a friend that will join you or not. The other interesting thing is they've also added a possible add-on for a coffee setup, which is quite neat. You don't really see this a lot, but I guess the one thing I would really want to know about getting this kind of I guess espresso blend of coffee beans is whether this will be fair trade. If this was fair trade, I'll probably be more interested in it. But if it's not, then I personally I think the farmers of coffee should be paid for what they're actually producing, because coffee and essentially tea is one of those industry where we really underpay the farmers, and so personally I'm up for fair trade. That might be for you or not, but again, obviously if you don't like coffee that much and you just want the game, then don't worry about whether this is fair trade or not. All right, and so that's the last bit, or that's the fifth game of our fifth campaign. Sorry, that we've gone through. And if you're still here, then let's talk about human punishment. Right. So the interesting thing, well, sorry, the thing that I'm concerned about is the level of fiddliness in this particular game. Oh, sorry. Let me start again. I don't think this game is worth it, and I'm gonna give you my reasons why. Um, and the first thing I'll probably say is this game, for myself, or in my own opinion, seems to be a next level of Dead of Winter, by adding all these extra mechanics into it. And the question I have to ask for myself is, does how many mechanics, or how many mechanics would you add to so-called improve a game before it becomes too much? And personally, for myself, I felt like this particular one has crossed that line a little bit. There's actually a lot going on in this particular game. Uh, so looking at here, you have to achieve some goals over here. And then when you're trying to deliver it, you also have to fight these enemies. Events get triggered. While you're triggering the event, you have this particular city management that you also have to manage. You have to be aware. What was it? Sorry, you have to maintain the city status, which is their rioting, which I refer to as unrest. So whether the population is going to be have unrest, or they're going to essentially be unhappy enough that they're going to start rioting, whether they're going to have a low morale, you have to manage the resources of the city, and then the security. Now, for myself, I think the security is fine. The rioting versus morale, that should be on the same, I guess, same measure. So on one end, you will have rioting. On the other end, you will have essentially high morale. So high morale, your population is happy. The more unhappy they are, the chances are of them rioting is higher. But now you've got these four, I guess, measurements or elements that you have to try and maintain while trying to do all this other stuff to then figure out who the machines are, or the one of the other two factions, which is a legion, and I can't remember what's the last one. Let's find the last ones. I think the last one is a fallen. So usually you have two traitor elements. You got your good guys, your bad guy. Every now and then they'll add a third one. This one they've added a fourth one. So is the fourth one really needed? You know, it's something that you have to kind of like ask yourself. Like, at what stage would you say there is just too many, I guess, elements to this game before it becomes too much? And this is where I felt like it that has reached that point where it is a little bit too much. That fourth faction is just a pain. There's an interesting part in what they refer to as the tier 2 side. So in most social deduction game, everyone tends to have that night phase where they close their eyes, and certain groups will wake up and figure out who they are. But in this part of the game, you kind of get into the flow of the game, and then all of a sudden you kind of have to break that game while everyone tries and figure out who they are now. So it's kind of like, why did that not happen at the beginning? And I know why it happened in the middle. It happened in the middle because that middle bit is where it gives you the opportunity to convert someone to be on your side. But I felt personally like that breaks the flow of the game. It makes things more finicky, and it's just that little bit of extra filliness that I felt a social deduction game doesn't quite require. Uh, I guess I'm more towards a lighter social deduction game. I was never really too into that semi co-op. So Dead of Winter I've played. I've I've enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. But it has that semi co-op is, you don't know if any of you are actually going to betray the group or not, right? So there's a potential that one of you are. So let's say, sorry, let's start again. So let's say there's four of you, then there's five roll cards. One of the fifth roll card is the card that is essentially a traitorous survivor, one who's essentially out for himself and himself only, and that's the objective. But when you're dealing out to the four players, you may or may not have dealt that traitorous survivor card, which means you're there and you're also very suspicious of all the players already. If you like that kind of game, then sure. Personally, for myself, I'm not that into that semi co-op. I rather know that there is definitely a traitor or not a traitor. But yeah, and this one, you know that there's definitely a traitor. You just don't know what type of traitor they're going to be, and that for me is a little bit of a problem, because it just becomes too much. You've got you have to try and explain what each of the loyalty cards do. You have to work out all the characters and their variable player powers. You have to tell how events work. So this game, from all the reviews that I've seen and essentially read, has a high commitment. Like you have to get a player group to really want to commit to playing this kind of game, because the intensity of trying to learn this game at the beginning is actually very, very high. And so again, that's my part of, has this game reached that one step too high? So that's my, like, if I was to summarize, 4 factions is too many. I think at most factions should be enough. The fact that they added fourth one just makes it that little bit more complex. You've got, was it too much ongoing to begin with? So to try and explain this game to a newbie is very hard. To get everyone to commit to this game, it's depending on your own player group whether you can convince a group of at least, this says minimum 3. I'm thinking to really get the true enjoyment out of this, you probably need 4 or 5. So you need to convince 4 or 5 players that this game is actually worth investing your time in, because chances are you're going to make quite a number of mistakes in the first 2 or 3 games as you try and work out what you guys have to do, and what's going on. And then you also have to maintain that 4 status of the city. Personally, I think you could probably get away from having to do that. I'm not 100% sure why the creators felt like they needed that. And the last bit is, I find it's a little bit odd, where your theme is you're trying to avoid a uprising by the machine. However, it seems like you're playing against the city itself by having to maintain those 4 city statuses. So really, what you're really playing against, instead of the machine, is you're playing against the outlaws. You're trying to prevent the outlaws from rioting and overtaking your city. And it just so happens that one of your players around you happens to be a machine. So are you trying to prevent the machine, or are you trying to prevent the outlaws from overtaking the city? Right. So if I was to compare this back to Dead of Winter, you're trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. So it doesn't matter that the traitorous guy is there. The traitorous guy is going to try and stop you from surviving, shall we say. Um, but your main enemy is the zombies. So if I took that very same concept to this particular game, your main enemy isn't the machine. Your main enemy is actually maintaining the city populace to prevent the outlaws from overtaking the city. So already I'm already conflicted with their theme of this, and I, don't get me wrong, I think this game is worth investing in if you manage to find a group that loves that cyberpunk theme. It is very, very niche. Um, you like this kind of like hard social deduction game where where it doesn't feel like it's a tack on for a pick up and deliver. Um, Personally, I like pick up and deliver. I like social deduction. I think this game does do it pretty well. Um, it's just too much going on. Like this bit here, like I really dislike this. I dislike the having to manage the city status while you're trying to work out who is on the good or bad side. Maybe this has some element of why you're getting your data chips across, but yeah. So for myself, I probably won't be backing this. Um, Again, it's very niche. If this looks like a game for you, if you love Battlestar Galactica, then this is something worth looking into. But for myself, knowing myself and my gaming group, I will not be backing this. I hope this helps you in some way.